I stood in Terminal 3 with my suitcase at my feet, watching the departure board flicker through destinations I would never see. The family trip to celebrate my graduation had been planned for months. I'd finished my master's degree in architecture, top of my class, scholarship recipient, published thesis. None of that mattered now as I watched them disappear through security without looking back. Emma had forgotten her phone charger. That's what Dad said when he rushed past me, barely making eye contact. "Stay with the bags, Leena. We'll be right back." That was 40 minutes ago. I called Mum's number. It rang until voicemail. I called Dad's. Same result. I tried Emma's phone, then Adrian's. Nothing. The hollow sound of ringing became a rhythm I knew too well. The sound of being secondary, forgettable, less. A text came through from Emma's number. A selfie. She was at the gate with Mum, Dad, and Adrian, her boyfriend of 3 months. They were laughing, holding up boarding passes. The caption read, "Family vacay." I counted the boarding passes in the photo. 4. My hands went cold. I opened the airline app on my phone and entered my confirmation number. The screen loaded slowly, each second stretching into something unbearable. Booking not found. I tried again. Same result. I called the airline. The woman on the phone was kind but firm. "I'm sorry, Mom. That reservation was cancelled 2 weeks ago. The credit was applied to 4 tickets instead of 5. Would you like me to check if there are seats available on today's flight?" "How much?" "Last-minute international tickets, 3,200. I had, throughout using my checking account, my graduation money had gone to help Dad with his business loan last month. He'd promised to pay me back after the trip. I stood there in the terminal while families moved around me like water around stone. Children ran ahead of parents. Couples held hands. An elderly woman was being pushed in a wheelchair by her daughter, both of them laughing about something. I wondered if they'd even notice I wasn't there when they landed. Maybe they'd planned this. Maybe Emma had suggested it. She was always better at getting what she wanted. Dad would have agreed to keep the peace. Mum would have gone along because confrontation made her uncomfortable. And Adrian was just happy to be included. I was always the one who made things easier by not being there. I took a cab back to my apartment, the one I'd already given notice on because I was supposed to be gone for 3 weeks. I'd even asked my neighbour to water my plants. I climbed 4 flights of stairs with my suitcase bumping against each step, unlocked my door and stood in the empty space. The walls were bare. I'd already packed most of my belongings for the move to the new job in Seattle. Boxes lined the hallway. My whole life was in cardboard, waiting to be transported. I sat on the floor and opened my laptop. I searched for their names, the resort, the flight number. I found Emma's Instagram. She'd already posted a photo of a tropical sunset, the ocean stretching endlessly. First night in paradise with my favourite people. I wasn't anyone's favourite person. I ordered takeout. I ate it cold on the floor. I lay down on my sleeping bag and stared at the ceiling. I counted the cracks. 37. I'd never noticed them before. I thought about calling them. I thought about demanding explanations. I thought about showing up in Seattle and pretending nothing happened. I thought about burning every bridge and disappearing into a new life where none of them could find me. But thinking required energy I didn't have. The numbness came slowly. Then, all at once. It felt like sinking underwater, the pressure building, the light fading, the sound becoming distant and muffled. I stopped feeling angry. I stopped feeling sad. I stopped feeling anything at all. I was so tired. I closed my eyes. The ceiling fan spun in lazy circles. I watched it until I couldn't anymore. My breathing slowed. My heartbeat became quiet. The apartment fell away, then the building, then the city, then everything. I died there on the floor of my empty apartment, 26 years old, alone, forgotten. When I opened my eyes, I was lying in my childhood bedroom. The ceiling was familiar. Pale blue paint, glow-in-the-dark stars I'd stuck up there when I was 12. My desk was cluttered with textbooks. My closet door was half open, showing the burgundy dress I'd worn to prom. I sat up slowly. My hands were smaller, softer. I looked at the calendar on my wall. May 2018. It was 18 again. My phone buzzed, an old model I hadn't seen in years. A text from Emma. Mom says breakfast is ready. Hurry up or I'm eating your bacon. I stared at the message for a long time. I knew what came next. I knew every moment of the next 8 years. I knew every time I would be overlooked, every sacrifice I would make, every instance I would choose them over myself. I knew how it ended. This time, I wouldn't let it. I got dressed slowly, deliberately. I chose my clothes with care, not the outfit I'd worn the first time, the one Emma had criticised until I changed into something less noticeable. I wore what I wanted, a red blouse. Confidence looks like. At breakfast, Dad was reading the newspaper. Mom was making pancakes. Emma was scrolling through her phone, texting someone and smiling. Morning, I said. Dad glanced up. Morning, sweetheart. Big day today, huh? College orientation packets should arrive any day now. In my first life, I'd been so excited. I'd applied to 7 schools. I'd gotten into 6, including 2 with full scholarships. Emma had applied to 3 and gotten into 1, the state school, the one I'd listed as my safety option. I'd ended up going there too. Emma had asked Mum and Dad if we could be roommates. It'll be so much easier, she'd said. We can share expenses, keep an eye on each other. What she meant was I could help her with homework, drive her to parties, make sure she didn't fail out. Mum had thought it was sweet. Dad had thought it was practical. I thought I didn't have a choice. Actually, I said, I've been thinking about Princeton. The kitchen went quiet. Mum turned from the stove. Emma looked up from her phone. Dad lowered the newspaper. Princeton, Dad repeated. I got accepted with full scholarship, full ride plus living stipend. I turned it down last time. I stopped. They were staring at me. Last time I considered it, I mean. But I'm going to accept it now. That's across the country, Mom said slowly. It's one of the best architecture programs in the world. What about Emma? Mum's voice had that careful tone, the one that meant I was being selfish. What about Emma? You were going to room together at State. She's been looking forward to it. I looked at my sister. She was 19 in my memory, standing at the airport terminal in her designer sunglasses, not looking back. She was 18 now, wearing my old sweatshirt, looking suddenly uncertain. Emma will be fine, I said. She's going to State, she'll make friends, she'll have her own experience. But, Emma started, I'm going to Princeton. I said it calmly, quietly, with absolute certainty. It wasn't a discussion. It wasn't a request. It was a fact. Dad opened his mouth, then closed it. He looked at Mum. Mum looked at Emma. Emma looked at me like she'd never seen me before. Well, Dad said finally, that's quite an opportunity. It is, I agreed. I excused myself from breakfast and went back to my room. I sat on my bed and breathed slowly. My hands were shaking. I'd never said no to them before, not in my entire first life. Every decision had been filtered through what they needed, what would keep the peace, what would make me useful. Not anymore. The next 4 years unfolded differently. I went to Princeton. I studied architecture. I made friends who knew me as Leena, not as Emma's sister or the helpful one or the responsible daughter. I dated a graduate student named James who introduced me to jazz and took me to museums on Sunday mornings. I published my thesis. I graduated summa cum laude. I called home once a month. I visited twice a year. I was polite, pleasant, distant. Emma struggled at State. She changed her major 3 times. She called me crying about her roommate, her classes, her boyfriend who cheated on her. I listened. I offered sympathy. I did not fly home to fix things. I did not drop my projects to help her study. I did not send her money when she overspent her allowance. I let her figure it out. Mum was hurt that I didn't come home for Thanksgiving my junior year. I'd been invited to study abroad in Barcelona for a semester, and the timing overlapped. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, I told her. She said family was supposed to come first. I said I was family, too. And this was my life. Dad rarely called. When he did, he talked about Emma, her new job, her new apartment, her new boyfriend, Adrian. He asked polite questions about my life, but didn't wait for the full answers. That was fine. I didn't need him to understand anymore. I took the job in Seattle. A prestigious firm, good salary, room for advancement. I found an apartment with a view of the water. I bought furniture I actually liked. I painted the walls. I made the space mine. 3 years into my Seattle life, Mum called with the trip idea. A family vacation, she said, to celebrate your success. You've been working so hard, Leena. We want to do something special. Emma suggested the Maldives. Dad already looked at resorts. We could all go together, like when you were little. We'd never taken a family vacation when I was little. We'd gone camping twice because it was cheap. Once to visit Dad's brother in Ohio. That was it. But Emma wanted the Maldives, so suddenly we were a family vacation family. I'll think about it, I said. Emma's already so excited. She's been looking at activities we could do. Snorkeling, spa days, she wants to spend time with you, she misses you. Emma had my phone number. Emma knew where I lived. Emma could visit any time. She chose not to. I'll let you know, I said. I didn't commit. Mum called 3 more times. Emma texted photos of resort pools. Dad sent me flight options. They wore me down with enthusiasm and guilt and the implicit suggestion that saying no would make me the bad daughter again. So, I said yes. I requested time off work. I bought new luggage. I packed carefully, summer dresses, swimsuits, sandals. I met them at the airport at 6 a.m. on a Wednesday. Emma was wearing expensive sunglasses. Adrian was with her, wheeling 2 large suitcases. Mum was fussing with her carry-on. Dad was checking his phone. Leena! Mum hugged me. Oh, I'm so glad you came. This is going to be wonderful. Emma smiled. Hey, stranger, long time. Hey. We checked in together. We went through security as a group. We found the gate. We sat in a row, Mum, Dad, Emma, Adrian, and me on the end. I pulled out a book, some thriller I'd grabbed at the airport store. I wasn't really reading it. I was watching them in my peripheral vision. I was waiting. Emma leaned over to Mum. I forgot to mention, I invited Sophia too. She's meeting us there. Her flight lands a few hours after ours. Sophia was Emma's best friend from college. They'd been inseparable since sophomore year. Oh, how lovely, Mum said. The more, the merrier. I kept reading. 2 pages, 3. Leena, Dad said, Emma needs to charge her phone. There's a coffee shop down the terminal. Can you take her? We'll watch the bags. In my first life, I'd said yes immediately. I jumped up, grabbed my things, walked with Emma to find an outlet. We'd gotten distracted looking at magazines. We'd lost track of time. When we got back, they were gone. This time I looked up slowly. Her phone is at 60%. She doesn't need to charge it. Emma blinked. I mean, I'd rather have it fully charged. You'll be fine. We're boarding in 20 minutes. Something flickered across Dad's face. Surprise, maybe, or irritation. It's just a quick walk. Then she can go alone. She's 30 years old. She knows how to find a coffee shop. The silence was sharp. Mum looked at Dad. Dad looked at Emma. Emma looked at Adrian, who suddenly became very interested in his phone. I just thought, Emma started. I know what you thought. I'm not doing it. I went back to my book. My heart was pounding, but my hands were steady. I'd spent 8 years in my first life being the person they could ask, interrupt, redirect, inconvenience. I'd spent 6 years in this life learning to say no. They didn't ask again. We boarded the flight. I had a window seat. Emma and Adrian were 2 rows ahead. Mum and Dad were across the aisle. The plane filled up. The doors closed. We taxied to the runway. I looked out the window as we lifted off. The city became small beneath us. The water glittered. The mountains stretched into the distance. I'd made it on the plane this time. The resort was beautiful. White sand, turquoise water, palm trees swaying in the breeze. Our villa had an infinity pool. The restaurant served fresh seafood. Everything was picturesque, expensive, and hollow. Emma wanted to do everything together. Group snorkeling, group spa day, group dinner on the beach. She'd planned an itinerary and printed copies for everyone. Tomorrow morning, she announced at dinner the first night, we're doing the Sunrise Dolphin Tour. It's supposed to be incredible. I'm sleeping in, I said, but it's a family activity. You can do family activities without me. I'm on vacation. I'm going to relax. Leena, don't be difficult, Mum said quietly. I'm not being difficult. I'm making a choice about how to spend my time. Dad cleared his throat. Your mother just wants us all together. We are together. We're at the same resort. We're eating the same meal right now, but I don't have to do every single activity Emma planned. Emma's face flushed. I was trying to do something nice. I know, and you should do it. I'm just not joining. I excused myself after dinner. I walked along the beach alone. The water was warm, the stars were bright, the air smelled like salt and flowers. I felt lighter than I had in years. The next morning, I slept until 9. I ordered room service, fruit, coffee, pastries. I ate slowly on the balcony. I read my book. I went to the pool and swam laps. I had lunch at the beach bar, sitting at a high table, watching people. Emma found me in the afternoon. She was sunburned and annoyed. You missed the dolphins. I'm sure they were beautiful. Mum's upset. Mum has you, Dad, Adrian, and Sophia. She's fine. Why are you being like this? I looked at her, really looked at her. She was pretty in an effortless way, long hair, clear skin, wide eyes that made people want to help her. She'd always gotten what she wanted by seeming slightly helpless, slightly overwhelmed. People rushed in to fix things for her. I used to be one of those people. I'm not being like anything, Emma. I'm just not organising my entire vacation around your itinerary. It's not just my itinerary, it's family time. We have family time. We're literally on a family trip. But I'm also an adult with my own preferences. I don't have to shadow you everywhere. She stared at me. You've changed. Yes. I don't like it. You don't have to. She walked away. I ordered another drink, a cocktail with mango and rum. I sipped it slowly and watched the ocean. That night at dinner, the energy was strained. Mum kept trying to make conversation. Dad focused on his food. Emma and Adrian whispered to each other. Sophia, who'd arrived that afternoon, looked confused by the tension. So, Leena, Sophia said brightly, Emma says you're an architect. That must be so interesting. It is. What kind of projects do you work on? I told her about my current project, a sustainable housing development, integrating green spaces with modern design. She asked good questions. I answered them. It was the first real conversation I'd had with anyone at the table in days. Emma looked irritated. She interrupted halfway through to tell a story about her work, something involving an awkward client meeting. Everyone laughed politely. Dad asked follow-up questions. Mum praised her for handling it well. I went back to my food. On the 5th day, Emma approached me at breakfast. We're doing a family photo shoot this afternoon. The resort has a photographer. Mum really wants pictures of all of us together. What time? 4 o'clock. By the main pool. I'll be there. She seemed surprised that I'd agreed. Maybe she'd expected a fight. But I'd learned that some battles weren't worth it. A photo shoot was 30 minutes. I could stand in a group and smile for 30 minutes. I showed up at 4 wearing a white sundress. Mum was thrilled. Dad looked relieved. Emma was directing everyone's positions like she was the photographer. Leena, stand between Mum and Dad. Adrian, you're next to me. Sophia, you're on the end. The photographer took dozens of photos, group shots, pairs, candids of us pretending to laugh. It was performative and exhausting. Afterward, Emma pulled out her phone. Let's get some for Instagram. She gathered everyone close. She held up her phone. She took selfie after selfie, adjusting the angle, checking the lighting, retaking ones where someone blinked. She posted one immediately. Family forever. I looked at the photo. I was on the edge, partially cut off. Emma was in the centre, beaming. Mum and Dad flanked her on either side. Adrian had his arm around her. Sophia was making a silly face. I looked like an afterthought. In my first life, that photo wouldn't have existed because I wouldn't have been in it. I'd been left at the terminal. This time, I was here, but I was still barely visible. The difference was that this time, I didn't care. On the last night, we had a group dinner at the resort's nicest restaurant. Everyone dressed up. The food was elaborate. 7 courses, wine pairings, a dessert that involved sparklers. Dad ordered champagne. He stood up to make a toast. I want to thank everyone for being here, he said. This trip has been special. Family is everything, and I'm grateful we could all take this time together. We raised our glasses. We drank. Emma started talking about planning another trip next year. Maybe Europe, maybe a cruise. I didn't commit to anything. After dinner, I walked on the beach alone. The sand was cool under my feet. The water glowed with bioluminescence. I stood at the edge and let the waves lap at my ankles. I thought about my first life, the airport terminal, the cancelled reservation, the empty apartment, the quiet ending. I thought about this life, the boundaries I'd set, the choices I'd made, the person I'd become. I wasn't the daughter who sacrificed everything for them anymore. I wasn't the sister who made herself small so Emma could shine. I wasn't the woman who waited for love and recognition that would never come. I was Leena. I had a career I'd built myself. I had a life I'd chosen deliberately. I had self-respect that couldn't be taken away by being left at an airport or cropped out of a photo. They could overlook me, undervalue me. I must forget about me. It didn't matter anymore. We flew home 2 days later. The airport was crowded. Security was slow. Our gate was at the far end of the terminal. Emma complained about the walking. Adrian offered to get her a coffee. Dad found seats near the window. Mum fussed with her luggage. I sat separately. I pulled out my laptop and answered work emails. My boss had sent through details about a new project, a museum commission, something I'd been hoping for. I read the brief twice, already imagining the possibilities. Leena. Mom sat down next to me. Can we talk? I saved my work and looked at her. I know this trip was hard for you, she said. I know you and Emma don't always see eye to eye, but she really does love you. We all do. I know. Do you? She looked genuinely confused. Sometimes it feels like you've pulled away from us, like you don't need us anymore. I don't need you the way I used to, I said carefully. That doesn't mean I don't love you. It means I've learned to stand on my own. But family is supposed to be there for each other. It is, and I'm here. I came on this trip even though I knew it would be difficult. I showed up, but I also have boundaries now. I have a life that doesn't revolve around fixing everyone else's problems. Mum was quiet for a moment. Emma says you've changed. I have. I miss the old you. The old me was drowning, Mum. You just couldn't see it because I made it look easy. She didn't know what to say to that. She patted my hand awkwardly and went back to Dad. I returned to my laptop. They called our boarding group. We lined up. We shuffled through the jet bridge. We found our seats. I was in a different row this time, across the aisle and several rows back. I watched them settle in. Emma immediately put in her earbuds. Adrian pulled out a magazine. Dad reclined his seat. Mum closed her eyes. The plane took off. I looked out the window as the resort island became small beneath us, then disappeared into clouds. When we landed, I had a car waiting. I'd booked it in advance. No waiting for shared rides, no coordinating with everyone else's schedules. "You're not coming back to the house for dinner?" Mum asked at baggage claim. "I have work tomorrow. I need to get home and unpack." "Oh." She looked disappointed. "Well, maybe next weekend?" "Maybe. I'll check my calendar." I hugged her briefly. I waved to Dad and Emma. I walked out to where my car was waiting. The driver loaded my luggage. I climbed into the back seat. I looked out the window as we pulled away from the terminal. I thought about the first time I'd stood in this airport, 18 years old in my first life, watching them board without me. I thought about the second time, 30 years old in my second life, determined not to let them leave me behind. This time, I was leaving first. I was the one deciding when to go, where to go, who to take with me. I was the one in control. The museum project consumed the next 6 months. I worked late nights and early mornings. I collaborated with engineers, artists, city planners. I presented designs to the board. I revised, refined, perfected. The building started to take shape. Clean lines, natural light, spaces that invited contemplation. It was the best work I'd ever done. Emma called occasionally, usually when she needed something, advice about her job, opinions on apartments, someone to complain to about Adrian. I listened when I had time. I was kind but not overly involved. I didn't drop everything to help her anymore. Mum sent cards for holidays. Dad texted on my birthday. The messages were pleasant but surface level. We'd become the kind of family that exchanged pleasantries and occasional updates but didn't dig deeper. That was fine. I'd learned that some relationships couldn't hold the weight of honesty and boundaries. They could only exist in the shallow end, where no one demanded too much, or expected too much, or needed too much. I'd spent my first life in the deep end, drowning while trying to keep everyone else afloat. I'd spend this life on solid ground. 1 year after the Maldives trip, Emma got engaged. She called to tell me, her voice bright with excitement. "He proposed at the beach, where we had our first date. It was so romantic. Mum cried, Dad gave us champagne. Congratulations. I want you to be a bridesmaid, obviously. You're my sister." "I'm honoured. Send me the details." She did. The wedding was planned for the following summer. Big venue, expensive dresses, weekend-long celebration. I agreed to the bridesmaid role. I ordered the dress she'd chosen. I showed up to the events I was required to attend. I was polite, I was present, I was distant. At the rehearsal dinner, Emma pulled me aside. "You seem different lately." "Do I?" "Yeah, I don't know, like you're here but not really here." "I'm here, Emma. I'm standing in this restaurant wearing this dress, participating in your wedding festivities. But you don't seem happy about it." I considered her carefully. She was 29, about to get married, still looking at me like I was supposed to fix something for her. "I'm happy for you," I said. "I hope you and Adrian have a wonderful marriage. I hope you build a good life together. But I'm not going to be the person who sacrifices everything to make your life easier anymore. I'm not going to drop my work to help you plan centerpieces or calm you down when you're stressed. I'm your sister, but I'm not your emotional support system or your backup plan? Her eyes widened. Is that what you think It's what you do, Emma. You've been doing it our whole lives. And I let you because I didn't know how to say no. But I know now. She stared at me. You've really changed. Yes. I don't know if I like it. You don't have to like it, but you have to accept it. I walked away. I found my seat at the dinner table. I ate my meal. I smiled for photos. I gave a toast that was gracious and brief. I fulfilled my obligations. The wedding was beautiful. Emma looked radiant. Adrian looked nervous. Mum cried. Dad made a speech about love and family and commitment. I stood in my bridesmaid dress and held a bouquet of white roses. I smiled when I was supposed to. I posed for photos. I danced one obligatory dance with a groomsman who tried to make small talk. At the end of the night, I changed into regular clothes and called a car. I left while people were still dancing. I went back to my hotel. I took off my makeup. I ordered a room service. I sat on the balcony and watched the city lights. I felt peaceful. 2 years later, Emma had a baby. A girl. They named her Olivia. The birth announcement came via text. A photo of Emma in a hospital bed holding a tiny pink bundle, Adrian beside her looking exhausted and proud. I sent flowers. I sent a gift, a handmade quilt from a local artist, soft and beautiful. I called to congratulate them. You should come visit, Emma said. Meet your niece. I will, when I have time. Work is busy right now. You're always busy. I am. Don't you want to meet her? Of course, yeah. And I will, but on my schedule, not yours. She was quiet then. You've really built a wall between us, haven't you? I've built boundaries, Emma. There's a difference. It doesn't feel different from here. I'm sorry you feel that way, but I'm not sorry for taking care of myself. I visited 3 months later. I held baby, Olivia. She was small and perfect, with dark eyes and tiny fingers. I felt a flutter of affection, but not the overwhelming pull I'd expected. She was Emma's daughter, not mine. I could love her from a distance, send birthday gifts, be the aunt who showed up occasionally. I didn't have to be anything more than that. Emma watched me with the baby. You're good with her. She's sweet. You should have kids someday. You'd be a good mum. Maybe, if it happens. Are you seeing anyone? Casually. Anyone serious? Not at the moment. She looked almost sad. I worry about you sometimes. You seem so alone. I'm not alone, Emma. I'm independent. There's a difference. But doesn't it get lonely? I handed Olivia back to her. Sometimes, but loneliness is better than being surrounded by people who don't really see you. She didn't know what to say to that. I stayed for 2 hours. I admired the nursery. I listened to Emma's birth story. I hugged them both goodbye and drove back to Seattle. My apartment was quiet when I got home. I made tea. I sat on my couch and looked out at the water. I thought about my first life, the desperate need to be seen, to be valued, to be included. I'd shaped myself around other people's needs, believing that if I just helped enough, sacrificed enough, loved enough, they would finally see me. They never did. I thought about this life, the deliberate distance, the careful boundaries, the choices I'd made to protect my peace. I was 34 years old. I had a career I was proud of. I had friends who respected me. I had hobbies and interests and a life that was wholly mine. I didn't need my family to validate me anymore. I didn't need them to choose me. I'd already chosen myself. Years passed. The museum opened to critical acclaim. I was promoted. I moved to a bigger apartment with a home office and a guest room. I travelled. Paris, Tokyo, Barcelona, places I'd always wanted to see. Emma's life continued too. She had a second baby. She moved to the suburbs. She posted photos of family dinners and holiday cards and milestone moments. I was in some of those photos. Background, peripheral, present, but not prominent. That was fine. I sent gifts for birthdays. I called on holidays. I maintained the connection without letting it consume me. Mum called one afternoon, her voice careful. "Emma says you're coming for Thanksgiving this year." "I haven't decided yet." It would mean a lot to her. To all of us. I know. But I have other options, Mum. Friends here have invited me. I might travel. I haven't committed to anything. We're family, Leena. Yes, and I love you. But being family doesn't mean I have to prioritize your gatherings over my own happiness. Your father misses you. Dad barely called me for 3 years. He can miss me from a distance. She was quiet, then, softly, "I don't understand when this happened, when you stopped needing us. I stopped needing you when I realized you'd never needed me the way I needed you. I'm not angry about it anymore, Mum. I'm just free from it." She hung up shortly after. I didn't call back. I spent Thanksgiving in Seattle with friends. We cooked together, drank wine, played board games. It was warm and easy and full of laughter. I didn't miss the strained family dinners where I was tolerated but not treasured. I went home that night full and content. I made tea. I sat by the window. I watched the city lights reflect on the water. I thought about the girl I'd been in my first life, standing in an airport terminal, watching her family leave without her, believing she'd done something wrong to deserve it. I thought about the woman I'd become, choosing her own path, setting her own terms, refusing to shrink herself for people who wouldn't make room for her anyway. The abandonment in my first life had taught me that I could only rely on myself. The rebirth had given me the chance to actually do it. I pulled out my phone and opened my calendar. Next month, I had a speaking engagement in New York, a conference on sustainable architecture. After that, a potential project in Vancouver. In the spring, a friend was getting married in Iceland. My life was full of possibilities I'd created for myself. I didn't need to be anyone's first choice anymore. I was my own first choice. And that was enough. The years kept moving. I turned 40. My hair had threads of silver. My apartment was filled with art and books and plants. My career was everything I'd worked for. Emma reached out less. The texts became more infrequent. The invitations became generic. "Hope you can make it," instead of "please come." Mum sent holiday cards with family photos. I was never in them anymore. That was fine. I sent my own cards. Pictures of places I'd travelled, buildings I'd designed, moments I'd captured. Dad retired. Emma's kids started school. Life continued for them, and life continued for me. We existed in parallel, occasionally intersecting, but never fully connecting. One evening, my phone rang. Emma's name on the screen. I almost didn't answer. It was late and I was working on a proposal. But something made me pick up. "Leena?" Her voice was thick. "Can we talk?" "What's wrong?" "Nothing. I've been thinking about us. About how things changed." "Okay." "I know I wasn't always the best sister. I know I took advantage sometimes. I know I made things about me when they should have been about you too." I set down my pen. "Where is this coming from?" "Olivia asked about you yesterday. She wanted to know why you never visit, and I didn't know what to say. Because the truth is, I don't know why we're not close anymore. I don't know when that happened. It happened gradually," I said, "over years of small moments where I realized I was giving my everything and getting very little back. Is it too late to fix it?" I thought about that. I thought about the airport terminal. I thought about the family vacation. I thought about all the times I'd bent myself into uncomfortable shapes to fit their needs. I don't know if there's anything to fix, Emma. We are who we are. You have your life. I have mine. We can be kind to each other without being close. That's so sad. Is it? Or is it just honest? She was quiet for a long time. I do love you, you know. I always have. I know, and I love you too. But love doesn't mean I have to sacrifice my peace to prove it. We talked a little longer. It was civil. It was even warm in places. But when we hung up, nothing had fundamentally changed. I went back to my proposal. I finished it late into the night. I submitted it the next morning. 3 weeks later, I got the commission. I stood in my office, looking at the contract, and felt the quiet satisfaction of work well done. I'd built a life on my own terms. I'd learnt to walk away from tables where I wasn't served. I'd stopped waiting for people to choose me and started choosing myself instead. My family would never understand what it felt like to be left at an airport terminal, figuratively or literally. They would never fully see how their small thoughtlessness had accumulated into something unbearable. But I'd stopped needing them to understand. I'd stopped needing anything from them at all. I was free. And in the end, that was the greatest gift my rebirth had given me. Not revenge, not vindication, not even justice. Just freedom. The freedom to live my life without carrying the weight of their expectations, their neglect, their inability to see me. I'd booked my flight. I'd flown somewhere better. And I'd never looked back.